So, today we're going to dive into the science of staying safe. We're going to explore how places like universities have completely transformed their emergency plans, moving them from just simple checklists into this complex, data-driven system that's designed to protect all of us when it really, really matters. Okay, let me ask you something. When you hear the words safety drill, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it a fire alarm? Yeah, for most of us, that's the classic image, right? But believe it or not, that kind of one-size-fits-all approach is decades out of date. The reality is, emergency preparedness today is a whole different ballgame. It's not about having one plan for a fire, and then another one for an earthquake, and so on. Now, it's this unified science that prepares for all the potential hazards out there, blending psychology, logistics, and a ton of data to keep people safe from a huge range of threats. Now, before we get into the school's big master plan, let's start with the single most critical piece of the puzzle. You. I mean it. In any emergency, what you do in those first few seconds, those first few moments, that can make all the difference. So let's look at the simple, powerful actions that have become the gold standard around the world. In an active threat situation, the standard response is run, hide, fight. And it's a hierarchy for a reason. First, and most importantly, if you have a clear, safe escape path, run. Don't think, don't hesitate, just go. Leave your stuff behind. Now, if you can't get out, you hide. Find a spot out of sight, block the door, and you've got to silence your phone. Then, as an absolute last resort, if your life is in immediate danger, you fight. You act with aggression, and you do whatever it takes to neutralize that threat. But for a totally different kind of threat, say an earthquake, the protocol is completely different. This one's all about physics. The standard is duck, cover, and hold on. And you might wonder why. Well, the biggest danger isn't the ground shaking. It's stuff falling on you because the ground is shaking. So you get under something sturdy, like a desk, cover your head and neck, and you hold on tight. Trying to run outside is often way more dangerous. And this brings up a really key detail in modern safety plans. You're going to hear two specific commands a lot: evacuate and shelter. They might sound kind of similar, but they mean totally opposite things. Evacuate means the danger is inside the building, like a fire, and you need to get out. Shelter, on the other hand, means the danger is outside, like a tornado or a hazmat spell, and the safest place you can be is right where you are, hunkered down. Okay, so what if you're the first person to spot a small fire? If it's really small, just starting out, you might be able to handle it with an extinguisher using the PASS method. Super easy to remember. You pull the pin, you aim at the base of the fire, not the flames, you squeeze the handle, and you sweep from side to side. But listen, your safety is number one. If you have any doubt at all, just get out and call for help. All right, so those are your individual actions. Now let's zoom out. Because behind your personal response, there's this highly organized, well-oiled machine that kicks into gear to manage the crisis. This isn't improvised stuff. It's a standardized framework designed to bring order to absolute chaos. And that framework is called the Incident Command System, or ICS. Think of it like a pop-up company created for one purpose. At the top, you have the command staff. The incident commander is the boss, the single person in charge. The public information officer handles all communication, making sure everyone gets clear, consistent info, no rumors. The safety officer, their only job is to watch for risks, and they have the authority to stop anything they see as unsafe. And the liaison officer is the one who coordinates with all the outside help, like police and fire departments. So how does that strategy actually get put into action? Well, that's where the general staff comes in, and they're broken into 4 key roles. Operations, they're the doers, the boots on the ground. Planning, they're the thinkers, tracking everything and figuring out the next move. Logistics, they're the getters. They make sure everyone has the people and supplies they need. And finance/admin, they're the payers, tracking all the costs. It's literally a temporary organization built to solve a crisis. So we've seen what you do, and we've seen what the school does. But why? Why this specific structure? Why these specific roles? Well, it all comes down to a core set of principles, the actual science behind the entire system. This is basically the doctrine, the rulebook that every solid emergency plan is built on. It has to be comprehensive, meaning it considers all possible hazards. It's progressive, so it's always looking ahead to anticipate future disasters, not just reacting to past ones. It's risk-driven, putting resources where the biggest threats are. It has to be integrated and collaborative, making sure everybody inside and out is working together. And it's coordinated, flexible, and above all, professional. This is a science, and it relies on knowledge and facts. These principles get applied across a process that actually never ends. It's called the disaster cycle. It starts with mitigation. That's trying to prevent a disaster from happening in the first place. Then comes preparedness, which is all the planning and training. Next up is the response, which is what happens during the crisis. And finally, recovery, getting things back to normal. But here's the key. It's a loop. What we learn from the recovery of one disaster feeds right back into mitigating and preparing for the next one. It's a cycle of constant improvement. And that brings us to the final, absolutely crucial piece of this whole puzzle. Because look, a plan is totally useless if it just sits on a shelf collecting dust. It has to be tested, it has to be refined, and it has to be improved, relentlessly. So how do you get from a plan on paper to a seamless response in the real world? The answer is what they call a building block approach to practice. You start small and you build your way up. First, you have seminars, which just introduce the plan. Then you move to tabletop exercises, where leaders can talk through a what-if scenario. After that come drills, which test one specific skill, like an evacuation. Then you have functional exercises, testing how different teams coordinate. And finally, you get to the whole shebang, full-scale exercises. This is the full dress rehearsal with real-time simulations, maybe even mock victims and first responders on scene. And here's the real game changer. Modern drills aren't just about going through the motions. They are about collecting data. You better believe everything is measured. How long did it take to get that alert out to 95% of people's phones? How long did the evacuation take? Down to the second. They even collect anonymous feedback to make sure the drills are empowering people, not traumatizing them. This is the data that turns a pretty good plan into a great one. This quote from a school principal really says it all. It captures the huge shift in thinking. Technology, like cameras, isn't just for looking back at what happened later. It's about getting real-time information to first responders while an event is happening, helping them make smarter, faster, and ultimately life-saving decisions. So we've seen that modern preparedness isn't just a checklist. It's a really sophisticated, multi-layered system that's built on science and is always getting better. The institution has a plan. The professionals have a plan. So the only question that's left is, do you know your part?